This successful businessman is a single father in search of a new companion. However, when he finds the ideal woman, something tragic separates them. This is Song, a single father who lives through the challenges of managing his company while raising his son, Chen. Once, trying to make his son happy, Song takes him to work. While they were at the office, he assigns the boy a task: find a photocopier. But Chen gets lost and returns crying into his father's arms. On the other side of town is Siley, who works at an advertising agency and is facing a difficult moment in her life, as her daughter named Xuan needs urgent brain surgery. As a single mother, Siley has no idea where she will get the money, but she tries to believe that everything will turn out fine. One afternoon, walking hurriedly, Siley looks at her reflection in the glass of a car, thinking the vehicle is empty. However, the vehicle belongs to Song, who is inside the car staring at her. When he lowers the window, Siley becomes so embarrassed that she loses her balance and falls backward. Song gets out of the car and is kind to her, offering his hand to help her stand up. However, when returning the cell phone that fell from her hand, he says that she scratched his car, but that she can pay for the mistake by giving him her phone number. Song tried to sound flirtatious, but all he did was make Siley angry. She sticks a paper with her number on the car and turns her back on him. The story could have ended there, had it not been for the coincidence of both their children finding out that they study at the same school. Even though she didn't like the look of Sun, Siley needs to spend time with him, since her daughter studies with his son. Unlike their parents, Chen and Xuan get along super well at school. During a parent and child activity, Chen tells his father it would be good to have a mother like Siley, which moves Song and makes him more compelled to get to know the lady. Later, Song talks about Siley with his grandfather, who advises him to fight for the woman and try to change the first impression she had of him. So, Song hosts a party and invites Siley. As it is a work-related party with several businessmen, she goes in hopes of finding a professional opportunity during the celebration. However, she feels somewhat out of place, because there are many wealthy people at the party, and Tong is one of them. Tong is a wealthy and arrogant woman who has a great interest in Song. However, he never liked her, as he knows her feelings are not true. Chen also dislikes the woman, as she makes no secret of revealing the viper she is when alone with the child. During the party, Tong thinks Siley is an employee of the place, and maliciously spills a drink on her. Siley runs and locks herself in a room to try to dry off. While she tries to dry her blouse, Song enters the room and she becomes nervous, wanting desperately to leave the room. The anxiety of both ends up causing a clash and both fall on the bed. Song on top of her. The two remain close, staring at each other until a man enters the room and sees the scene. Embarrassed for thinking he was interrupting an intimate moment, he leaves the room apologizing. Song, again, tries to start a conversation with Siley and asks if she is married. But the woman dodges the question and says she prefers to talk only about work. Back at the party, Xuan and Chen take the opportunity to grab lots of sweets, something that is plentiful at the party. Unfortunately, one of the dessert carts loses control and heads towards Chen, who is distracted and nearly hit. Fortunately, Siley jumps and pulls the boy out of the way of the cart, saving him. Chen ends up remembering his mother after being saved, and reflects the image of his mother in Siley, calling her mommy. Song's grandfather sees the whole scene, and once again tells his grandson that Siley would make a good wife. As things never go right between the two, the grandfather plays Cupid and advises that Song give her a ride. Song does this and Siley accepts. Inside the car, the children sleep, and Siley reveals that she is a single mother. Song does not hide his happiness in knowing this. As he smiles at her, a motorcycle almost hits the car. Song brakes reflexively and fortunately nothing happens. While they check if the children are okay in the back seats, the two end up very close, which creates a big tension. When they arrive at the destination, it is cold, and Song lends his coat to Siley. She accepts, but the next day makes sure to go return it, to his great luck. For this, she goes to Song's house. When they meet again, Xuan and Chen immediately start playing, and he shows the girl the various toys he has in his huge house. Tong also arrives to hit on Song, as she always does, and is not happy to see Siley there. Tong makes several moves on Song, but he shows no interest in her. When finally Siley is alone with Song, she tries to explain about an advertising project that would be ideal for Song's company. Siley had hopes of leveraging money for her daughter's surgery, however. Song interrupts her and reveals what he had been thinking for a while, a marriage proposal. Of course, Siley thinks he is mocking her. Because in what universe would a rich and handsome man who barely knows her ask her to marry him? Song hurries to say that it would make both of their children very happy, and therefore what he was proposing was a marriage of convenience. And you? Would you accept? Comment here what your reaction would be. Also, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next summaries, huh? Sile is not convinced that he is being sincere. Song then plays his final card, saying that his grandfather is sick, and that his last wish is to see his grandson marry a good woman. Proving he is telling the truth, Sun takes Sile to the room where his grandfather is, and there are several medicines on the bedside table. Song then takes a risk and tells his grandfather that he is going to marry Sile. The old man is very happy, so Song takes Sile's hand, who in the situation does not have the heart to deny it. Upon leaving the old man's room, Sile makes it clear that the marriage will not go forward. As they study at the same school, Zixuan and Chen become closer. They are almost best friends, but there is a misunderstanding between the two when Chen says that their parents are going to get married. The boy, of course, is excited about the idea, but Zixuan knew nothing and ends up crying. The teacher calls Sile and Song to the school because the children are fighting. Sile has a way with children and talks with Zixuan and Chen. The argument between the children is resolved, but the adults continue at an impasse. Sile refuses to marry Song, but he does not give up and takes out of the trunk of the car a giant bouquet of roses, very tacky even for me. Sile, who is allergic to flowers, starts sneezing like crazy. Worried, Song takes her to the hospital. Arriving there, the doctor has an emergency, and as he believes the two are a couple, he gives Song an ointment to apply on Sile's neck. Song was very shy and tries to apply it without looking at her, but of course it goes wrong, so he gets closer to Sile and applies the ointment on her neck, which creates another moment of tension between the two. After this, Sile and Song start exchanging messages, and a romantic atmosphere between the two finally starts to form, until one day something unusual happens. A friend of Sile sets up a blind date, but ends up not being able to go, so she asks Sile to go in her place. Even though it's a strange and nonsensical request, Sile accepts. Dressing in the worst possible way, she goes to the date. However, Song, who is in the same restaurant, recognizes her and gets super upset to see her with another man. Then, Song decides to ruin Sile's date by pretending to be her husband. He tells the man that she is pregnant and that she farts a lot. Sile leaves the date very embarrassed and decides to get even. Sile then takes Song to a restaurant and says that the food there is her favorite. Hearing this, Song eats the food without thinking twice, even though the food is disgusting. Unbelievably, Sile stares at Song eating everything and realizes that he is willing to do anything for her. Back at the company, Song analyzes Sile's project and invites her to talk about it. Thinking that her proposal would be accepted, Sile was surprised to receive a notice ending the collaboration. Upset, she went to the bathroom to calm down, only to be provoked by Tong, who was waiting there. Tong laughed at Sile, saying that she was overestimating herself. Sile thought she could admit defeat if her skills were insufficient. But to her surprise, she heard from Tong that Song never intended to give her a chance. She remembered that it had always been her fighting for this alone and couldn't help but believe Tong's words. She left feeling disappointed. Sile got increasingly angry as she thought alone. She felt that Song was lying when he praised her proposal, so she went to confront him. After venting her emotions, she didn't wait for Song to explain and left, throwing the proposal on the ground and running away. Song wanted to go after her, but the shareholders were waiting for him to attend the meeting, so he had to return. Sile had no idea that although Song had ended the collaboration with the company, he still intended to sign a contract with her personally. While Sile was thanking Song for saving her, she realized that he had no idea how important this project was to her. Song explained that if Sile hadn't acted impulsively, they could have immediately signed a contract as individuals. However, Sile did not believe him and thought he was playing with her. Song explained that his corporation did not have the capacity to complete Sile's company's project. Just when he finished speaking, Sile received a call from a colleague informing her that her salary had not been paid, and the boss had disappeared, urging her to quickly return to the company to minimize some losses. Sile returned to the company in a state of urgency, but it was empty, with everything a mess and nothing of value remaining. Sile knew she had lost her job, and now she had no money, especially since she still needed to pay for Zixuan's medical treatment. Things get worse for Sile when the next morning Zixuan becomes ill. Sile was desperate and quickly took Zixuan to the hospital where Song's grandfather was. Zixuan's condition had become severe, and conservative treatment was ineffective. She needed surgery as soon as possible. But the schedule of the best surgeon was completely booked, with the nearest availability being 6 months away. However, Chi Zixuan could not wait that long. Overwhelmed, Sile couldn't help but cry in despair. Suddenly, Song Haoyu appeared by her side. Seeing Chisile's sadness, she needed a shoulder to lean on. So she leaned on Song's embrace and cried. Song's grandfather witnessed this scene and, upon learning about her condition, decided to give up his own spot for Zixuan. Sile thought it was inappropriate, but his grandfather, who had long seen through the complexities of life, insisted. Despite knowing he would not live much longer, even if he underwent surgery, he convinced Sile and Song to give the opportunity to Zixuan. The hospital expenses for Zixuan overwhelmed Sile, and she had to make calls all over to raise money. However, Chi Zixuan had been ill for years, and Sile had already accumulated considerable debts trying to treat her condition. Now she couldn't find anyone to borrow from. Out of options, Sile received a call from a loan shark offering a loan with high interest, but with immediate availability of funds. Sile was about to accept the loan when Song overheard the conversation. He snatched the phone from her and ended the call, paying the fees on her behalf. Sile didn't like being indebted to others but promised to repay the money. However, Song told her to consider it an advance payment for the contract and told her to stay calm. During their stay in the hospital, the relationship between Song and Zixuan quickly improved. Seeing the harmonious interaction between the two, Sile decides to try to accept Song. Then, after asking Song to help put Zixuan to sleep, Sile agrees to meet him in the corridor. When Song finds her, she is wearing a veil and holding a bouquet. Sile then swallows her pride and honestly asks Song to marry her. And that was the recap of the 2023 series Please Be My Family, available on Viki. If you liked the story so far and want to know how it ends, comment Part 2. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and activate the bell to stay on top of everything that happens on the channel. See you in the next video.